But once you start factoring this in, what you start is taking into account the things that make the business actually healthy and make it sustainable long term. You start factoring those things in first. Then you can start looking at those bigger picture projects, and you can broaden your aperture and start looking at things and planning things that are a little bit more sexy that you wouldn't have done before simply by doing it this way. All right, guys, welcome back to Jerkball Talk. I'm Jason Fernandez. We're here at CrossFit Rife. Today we're going to talk about something not necessarily so sexy, get off of the gym floor, and talk about a little bit about how you budget for your gym. This is an important topic because if you don't do this correctly, this is the lifeblood of your business, of your gym. All the other stuff that we talk about, getting new equipment, paying coaches, doing all that stuff, none of that shit's going to happen if we can't figure out how to manage this and ultimately make your business successful. Now, I don't consider myself a business guru, much more I consider my expertise to be out on the floor, but this is something that I've gotten a lot smarter about over the years, and it's helped the business tremendously, and therefore helps you to provide a better product for your members. If you do not have a budget, that needs to happen. Now, there's a ton of different ways that you can do this. Doesn't really matter to me. I don't care. What I did is we started using the Profit First method. Michael McCallowitz, if you haven't read that book, it's phenomenal. It is literally taken our business and flipped it upright and put it in a much better spot than it used to be financially. So I highly recommend reading the book. Use as much of it or as little of it as you want, but I think it works very well for gyms, and it works very well for a lot of businesses because it allows you to start budgeting certain things so that you operate within the confines of what you've predetermined. So let's talk about it a little bit. First things first, what they're going to recommend, I'm going to give you guys a snapshot of the book, right? So what they're going to recommend first is that you have essentially 4 bank accounts. And the whole premise of this whole thing is that you're going to run your business based on percentages, not based on fixed numbers. Because when you do it that way, what happens is as revenue goes up, you'll just fill it with more expenses, and then you're never taking into account profit margins or anything like that. And one of the big principles in there is that generally accepted accounting practices is revenue minus expenses equals profit. If you flip it around, it's going to be revenue minus profit equals expenses. So we're going to factor in profit first, and then we're going to walk our way back into everything else. So for instance, the ideal scenario for a lot of this would be, ideally you want to be operating somewhere in the 40% range for your operating account. If you could get to 20 for profit, that means you have a super healthy business. I think if you were to take into account all businesses, like 5% would consider healthy, but if you're at 20, you're crushing it. And then, let's just say arbitrarily you set aside 10 and then add an extra 10% there for owner pay. What this does is it allows everything to stay in check with the amount of money that's being brought in. So all of these things will fluctuate. So arbitrarily, if you had $20,000 a month in revenue coming in, you would split up your money into those percentages into those accounts. What it does is it just allows you to not steal from yourself. So if you have a ton of money coming in that month, you're inclined to spend it on probably dumb shit that doesn't have a lot of ROI. But if you're disciplined and you do it this way, it allows you to start putting it in these different bank accounts and setting aside for spending. Once you've got this down, then you can make it a little bit more complicated. So I think we operate like 10 bank accounts within the business, and now you can start adding in a budget for equipment, for marketing, for professional development, CEUs, stuff like that. And you can start factoring in all of these things that will allow you to do bonuses, to send coaches to seminars or certifications, to update your equipment in the gym on a very regular basis. Like ours currently right now for equipment, like we currently operate at 9%. So if you haven't seen the other video that I did, I'll put it up here for like how to budget for your equipment so that you do that, or how to figure out what equipment you should buy. This is how we backed into that scenario to the point where we're spending, 9% of, gross revenue every month on that. So, but what it does is it gets you in the habit of setting money aside so you can do these things. So you're not like, well, I don't know if I don't have that much money to spend on marketing. Well, if I start putting aside 2 to 3%, probably no higher than 5. Some people say spend as much as you possibly can. I get, but it probably depends. You'll start setting this stuff aside, and then that way when it comes up, you'll be able to pay for it. And then I know a lot of gyms, everybody gets jammed with their affiliate fees or their insurance fees at a certain times of the year and you're not planned for it. This is where you can start to factor all of that stuff in. But most importantly, like, this is a big one too. These two, profit and owner pay. Most gym owners who start, myself included when we started, we did not factor these things in. And that's why we never paid ourselves. But once you start factoring this in, what you start is taking into account the things that make the business actually healthy and make it sustainable long-term. You start factoring those things in first. Then you can start looking at those bigger picture projects, and you can broaden your aperture and start looking at things and planning things that are a little bit more sexy that you wouldn't have done before simply by doing it this way. So this is just a brief snapshot of a way to do budgeting. It's not the way. I've found it to be tremendously helpful, and it's helped our business tremendously. So, and again, this is the thing that allows you to bring on new coaches and hire people, put in more equipment, start saving stuff, and making sure you can pay your fucking taxes and pay the man at the end of the year, like all of that stuff. If you're not planning for that, and you don't have a system for which to do that, it's going to be struggle, and you're going to be caught with your pants down at some point in the year when you have to pay out, large sums of money. So, if you haven't read Profit First, I highly recommend it. It is a gem. There's a ton of really good stuff in there. Michael McCallity's written several other books, Pumpkin Plan, Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, but Profit First. And I think there's a revised vision out now. So I highly recommend it. It's a very easy read. Go read it and then start executing this. It's pretty simple. It seems a little bit overwhelming, but just for reference, when I first read the book and you do like a little business assessment, this was the number. We were running at 94% operating expense. It's crazy, 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 crazy stuff. We've cut that in half, right, by instituting this. And what it does is it forces you to make some hard decisions about cutting costs and then factoring things like, yeah, you should pay yourself. You should give yourself a quarterly bonus, all that stuff. But here's the kicker. Doing this allows you to do better things for your members. It allows you to invest in the gym. It allows you to start spending money and giving back to the members, because you wouldn't be able to give back if you didn't have the cash flow to do that. And did another video on giving back. This will allow you to do all that stuff and maximize your effect on other people, which is what we're all here trying to do. So give it a read. If you have any questions about it, feel free to reach out. I've been operating this for probably 18 months or so. I've got it down pretty well. So if you have any questions, please put those in the comments. And if you like this, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. See you next time. Thanks.